Every day, millions of women dream, but a rare few look around the pain in their communities and declare, I'm going to build the healing. Hi everyone, I'm Aparna Tyagarajan and this is the Nari Shakti Show. Today, we are in the presence of a woman who spent not just 3 decades of her life bringing new lives into this world, changing them, but she's actually built sanctuaries of healing where these lives are reformed. She's a brilliant doctor, a fierce entrepreneur, and above else, a visionary architect of hope. She proves to us that a woman's touch is not just gentle, but strong enough to erect pillars, lead empires, and above all, redefine healthcare for generations. Join me in welcoming the incredible Dr. Jyoti Neeraja, Chairperson and CEO of People Tree Hospitals. She's also the founder of Marga Mindcare. Today, we're going to talk about mental health, healthcare, humanity, and what it takes to create impact that lasts beyond a single patient and a single hospital. A very, very warm welcome to you, Dr. Jyoti Neeraja.
Thank you.
It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Jyoti, let's talk about your evolution. You went into med school, you were the first doctor in your family, you were the first entrepreneur in your family, and here you are, right? Everybody has certain catalysts or certain factors that actually push them, drive them, that take them away from the linear path to an exponential growth, which is where you are. So if you were to name 3 of those catalysts in your life that have shaped you, what would they be?
So yes, thank you for having me here. Like you rightly said, I'm the first doctor in the family, and I can say I'm the first generation entrepreneur in the family. Yeah, so I started my career, my profession as a doctor, very passionate doctor, then went on to become an obstetrician and gynecologist. Like you rightly said, saving lives, bringing new lives onto this earth, which is very exciting. Every time a child is born, it's a totally new experience. I must have delivered thousands and thousands of babies,
Wow.
but every time is such a, it's a new experience. It's something, every time it's like a new reward. It's like a new gift. That's how, being an obstetrician gynecologist was. But then having said that, I realized probably when I was going through some leadership classes or management classes, I also personally felt that at any given point of time, I can see one patient, I can save one life at a time, but then having a kind of an ecosystem or having a robust organization where that organization could actually cater to the entire community. So that thought came to me, yes, that much is all that I could do as a doctor, as a gynecologist and an obstetrician. But then I have an organization where I keep in mind that every patient who walks in has to be treated with or spoken to or taken care of as your own family member. Because my mom is not educated. My grandmom, she actually, in her last stages of life, she was with me because I being the first doctor in the family. I'm not even sure if she knew to read or write. My mom, probably she was an 8th standard, that was all was her education. And then imagine every time they go to a hospital, how apprehensive they are. They're totally lost. Already the fear of, the illness or some kind of a sickness, they're going to the hospital. And then in the hospital, if they're not guided properly or they're not being spoken properly to, they always have that kind of a fear, anxiety, apprehension. And typically, all the family members would look up to me. Jyoti, when are you free? When are you coming? This is the help we need. And they would ask me for advice, doubts, clarified doubts, support, all of that. Then I thought, why not build an organization which can save many more lives? I have such brilliant doctors on my organization. So instead of me delivering 1,000 babies and saving 1,000 lives, I have an organization here where I have 100, 200 doctors saving lakhs and millions of lives. And that's how this creating an organization, that thought came to me. And that's how People Tree Hospitals actually, came into existence. But having said that, very early on in my life, when I got married and went to my in-laws' place, this is a small town in Andhra Pradesh. It's a district headquarters, and there I had to, like when I was 26 years old, just finished my post-graduation. I had to start my own hospital because that time there was a need. So in this town,
So you started very early on.
very early on. The
Okay.
mindset was you need to have your own setup if you have to provide your services. That was not like how we have in the cities today. We have all the corporate hospitals, we have the platforms, we have the facilities, services, where I could just go utilize the facility service and then deliver my service and come back. But that was not way back in the early 90s in a small district town called Kadapa. So the need was I need to have my own maternity setup, a women and child setup. And then having said that, my husband incidentally happened to be the first urologist for the district.
Oh wow, okay.
So in the late 90s, I had to set up a first urology hospital for him.
Oh,
With all the
okay.
endoscopic setup, which was the happening thing, and endoscopic urological work and all of that. So when he did his specialization, super specialization from Chennai Apollo, went on to do his endoscopic fellowship from Germany. By the time he came back, his entire urology setup was ready. So I think that actually gave me a lot of confidence, and that brought out the entrepreneurial, what do I say, skills, if I could say that, out of me. And then we moved to Bangalore, and then I continued to give my clinical services, and also I started People Tree Hospitals.
Lovely. And you know what I really love to hear? That you not only set up an establishment for yourself in your space, but also did it for your husband.
Yeah.
Right? Typically you hear the other way around. So that's like Nari Shakti to a whole new level.
So here we are, the Nari Shaktis.
Yeah, wow, what a great opening. Okay, so one of the things that you mentioned to me about your, your grandma ailing, and the lack of compassion, the lack of sensitivity, and I could completely relate to it. My mom was a very sensitive person, okay, and every time I had to take her to the doctor, there is something that I would do. I would write a note saying my mom is sensitive, please do not say anything negative. And I would keep it along with the reports and give it out to the doctor. That is the first thing that the doctor would read, and my mom would not know about
Wow.
it. Right? So I would set the context for the doctor. And here you are, half the battle is won with your mind, right? It's the mental perception that you have. So tell me, as a role, the role of a physician, how important is compassion and treating a patient with dignity?
Very important. If I have to say, that should be the number one. Especially being a doctor myself. So as a doctor, the first thing that should go out is compassion towards the patient. We can't, treat this as any other industry or any other business. Yes, and you said dignity. If I have to tell about dignity, what else other than mental health? So me running the mental health organization, and I'm advocating mental health awareness in India and creating the access in the form of Marga Mind Care, expanding across the cities of India. The most important thing is dignity of care, and the protecting the dignity of the patient, all the more in mental health, because typically the perception in mental health is they don't give you the dignity, they treat you without dignity because you are already mentally you're not able to perceive. That's the perception of the public. So all the more they hide behind the curtains, they push things under the carpet. So for us, treating with compassion and dignity is the foremost.
Okay, so you pivoted. You were a successful obstetrician and gynecologist. Your natural progression would be to be in the same space, build hospitals around this area. You completely pivoted to mental health. How did that shift happen, and why?
I think very early on, as a doctor, or even before as a doctor, as a woman, I've always felt that I need to give that hearing to people who are troubled. When I say
Okay.
troubled, they are upset. Some problem they are facing, so they are not happy, they are sad. I don't even want to get on to the words like depression and anxiety. I'm even talking about some problems which is not keeping them at peace. So I always felt that somebody has to hear them out, and all that we could do is just give some kind of confidence, or some kind of advice to them. So that with that thing, as women and also as a doctor and as a gynecologist, see, if you see as an obstetrician gynecologist, we just don't treat the patient. We always see the patient with the entire family, especially a pregnant woman. In India, when you see a pregnant woman, you see the pregnant woman with the mother-in-law, grandmom sometimes, the husband, the entire family. So, and also the journey is 9 months, a little more than 9 months actually, So in that journey, we always see the women, or if I have to say, the pregnant women, we don't call them as a patient, but then with the extended family as well. So many a times we see about the sensitivities within the family members, their sentiments, their needs are always, each time it's different. And as an obstetrician, we need to keep into consideration all of these things. So, and also, seeing, women going through this mood swings, the hormonal, changes which creates mood swings right from the adolescence onwards, and, premenstrual, postpartum, during pregnancy, after delivery, menopausal symptoms, perimenopausal, menopausal. So every time seeing a woman suffering like this, and I felt very early on the need to start a mental health hospital, because I'm like thinking, why nobody is serious about it? And I started Marga Mindcare as a part of People Tree Hospital way back in 2016. That's a decade now, 10 years back. I don't think that time any other hospital in India had mental health as a standalone. There are several hospitals which have women and child as a standalone. We have all the, the lovely chains of women and child, the birthing units, and all of that. But nobody had mental health as a standalone. Then I thought, no, I think there is a huge need. Somebody has to take this up as seriously as we take diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, cancer. And that's how Mental Health Marga Mindcare was born.
Lovely. And I think as the society is evolving, things are getting complex, right? And I think what has happened is there is a stigma, there is taboo around discussing your mental wellness, right? Because people usually relate it to something very, very extreme, like it could be depression, as you said, or something, other things which can be very, very extreme, and not something that are mild, that can be actually clinically solvable. What do you think people need to find out that they're actually going through something where they need to visit a doctor, right? Many people think this is just a phase, they'll come out of it, but then no, you need to have a clinician evaluate you, because there could be something deeper which could be clinically treated, right?
Very rightly said. You exactly said it. So, yes, most of the times, not only the individuals who are going through some kind of a mental disturbance, psychological disturbance, if I could say depression or anxiety, stress related, either they themselves think that this is something I should cope up myself. I should be able to come, get over it and come out of it. And not only that, the family members also sometimes tell the same. It's okay. I think you should get over it. You should come out of it. You should adjust. That adjust word is
very true, especially in Indian culture.
So that's how it is, and that's why if you see in India, the mental health, people who are actually in need of mental health support, like you rightly said, it could be from very, very, very mild to moderate to severe, to all spectrums of mental health problems. To the people who are actually seeking help, there's a huge gap. The gap, I could say, is 72 to 90%.
Wow.
When I say 72%, probably the gap is 72% in the urban cities, 90% in the rural and the small towns. They don't even come out. So there are 2-3 reasons for this. One is they don't know that help is available. Many people don't even know for these kind of problems there is actual help available, number one. And number two, like rightly said, they think that I need to live with it and adjust and I have to cope up with it myself.
Cope up, exactly.
Number two. Number three, the society, the taboo. The minute they seek help from a professional, when I say mental health professional, could be a counselor, a therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, then the society, the community, family, trying to be judgmental, trying to label them that he or she visited a mental health hospital. So this fear, this fear of being judged, and all of that. So all these three factors are the thing which makes them, go behind the curtain, suffer silently, push things under the carpet. But if I have to tell, when should they actually seek help? When whatever they're going through is affecting their routine life. Their sleep is disturbed. They're not able to concentrate in the routine things like, eating healthy food, or, keeping their, like taking bath, getting dressed up well, going out, doing your routine. It's affecting your work. You're not able to, be productive at work. So when all these signs or symptoms throws up, that means they have to seek help.
Okay. Dr. Jyoti, like you rightly said, there is taboo around it. People often delay seeking mental help. What does Marga mean? And what is the experience of someone who walks into Marga Healthcare? And how do they come out feeling?
So Marga means pathway, a path, either in Sanskrit or Hindi.
Marg.
Marg. It's
Okay.
a path. So you can say that her pathway, which there is a light at the end of the tunnel, something like that. Because people with mental health problems, sometimes they don't see light at the end of the tunnel. They are so confused. They don't even have answers. So that Marga is the pathway for them, to lead a normal life, to be productive, to be accepted by the society, by the community. That's what we do in Marga. So what does Marga do for the patients to get out of the fear to seek mental health? Number one is we actually give them the confidence that they are not being judged. That is the most important thing. They cannot be judged at all. Could be anybody in the organization, not necessarily, not the doctors, the psychiatrists, the psychologists. So we make sure that they are not judged, and like we discussed in the beginning, compassionate care. Most important is confidentiality. So that is what the patients, fear about, the confidentiality being maintained when they visit a doctor, because they come and talk about their personal problems, what they are going through, what actually caused them, led them to suffer what they are suffering today. So the key is to maintain confidentiality, non-judgmental, compassionate, of course, the thing, and like we discussed, dignity. So give them that due self-respect, the dignity of care. This is exactly what we do in Marga Mind Care. And if you see, that's our philosophy also. That's our mission. And to treat anybody and everybody who come to us with the type of care we would want for our own family members, our friends, or for ourselves. So with that, what happens, not only my doctors, my clinicians, anybody, it could be from my gatekeeper to my housekeeping, to my front office, everybody, talk to the patient, give them that experience, that how they would want their own family members to be treated. So that compassion and that non-judgmental thing is our foremost thing in Marga Mind Care.
Lovely, lovely. I mean, it sounds so nice. I feel that, like I said before, half the problem is mental, right? And if you give them that comfort zone, if you give them that, feeling of safety, feeling of, that their data is going to be confidential, they are willing to open up to you, right?
Yes.
When they open up, it's
Yes.
like that pressure off of you that's released.
Yes,
And then you
yes.
guide them.
Absolutely.
So tell me this is very interesting, because you're talking about compassion, which is something that cannot be tangibly measured, right? And healthcare these days is often measured through number of patients you've treated, your revenue, number of hospitals. So tell me, how does something as intangible as compassion really account for what you're doing?
So whatever we do, when we do keeping the patient as the patient-centric, patient-focused, anything we do should keep the patient as the center point, and then do such that the patient's trust, confidence in the organization, and the patient clinical outcomes is never compromised. So yeah, we could grow organizations, we could expand, scale it up, measure it by number of beds, and so on and so forth. But always the pivot is the patient's, it is the patient's well-being, the patient's satisfaction, the patient's experience, and definitely the clinical outcomes. And me being the doctor, That is the main thing which we can measure. And obviously, all this actually the intangible way is the patient's trust and confidence in coming and seeking the help or services from us.
So let's talk a little bit about Dr. Jyoti, the entrepreneur, right? You were the first entrepreneur in your family. What were some challenges that you faced, like the top challenge that you faced, especially this is an industry that's dominated by men. So what would be that one challenge and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, so if I just remember my boardroom when I was a board of director, one of the co-investor, it would be majoritarily men. I think if I remember, I was the only female on the board.
Okay.
It would always be whatever.
And we're talking about a board with how many members?
Board with 5 members, and then there are board of advisors. So typically it would be 7 or 8. I'm talking of my organization. So whenever there is a decision to be made, opinions being taken. Typically, how I have perceived people see is, you're a woman, so your opinions and decisions could be coming out of an emotional point or an emotional. I have seen this many times. So they always come back and relate to, because you're a woman, are your decisions, are your opinions being emotionally taken? So for us to say that no, to prove it's like, silently you have to keep proving. And for that, what has to be done is you just keep taking actions. You just keep taking. So that is the difference between us and the others. So you just have to keep taking actions, and when you keep taking actions, you get the results, and results speaks for itself.
Proof.
So I have seen that as a major challenge. At least for me, it would always that women and emotional is always connected. But rather, I would say for the other gender, it would be, they know everything. And if they say something, then it would be correct. That difference I've always felt, Aparna. Always felt that difference. Yeah, but then, you just have to keep, like I said, keep doing things. Result speaks for itself. And then this is where it has taken me, and here I am.
Lovely, lovely. So your results are speaking for itself. You just continue to do what you believe in.
Yes.
And then the rest will follow.
Yes.
Beautiful. Yes. Okay. So, Dr. Jyoti, your profile mentions something that I found very interesting. Between building hospitals, leading organizations, you still take time to pursue things that are not related to your profession, like reading books, being spiritually connected. How do you manage to do that?
I don't think that has to be managed, Aparna. I think all these things, that is the deeper human part of me. And then, when I am at home, I am not a CEO, I am not a managing director. And these are something, if I could say, actually, it's like a fuel. It actually acts like a fuel. It recharges me to do my other things. When I say the other things, my professional things.
And it broadens your perspective too, right?
It actually keeps me grounded. If I have to say, it keeps me grounded, I cook for my family, and my family members, obviously at home, they don't see me as a managing director or a chairwoman or a CEO. Typically, my sons say, Mom, I don't like the dosas done by the cook or the biryani done by the cook. I want you to cook for me today. And there I am, cooking for all of them. And that actually gives me the kind of happiness that's what my family see me as, which is actually my inner core. So, like I said, these things, if I don't know the right word, the stress busters is the right word. I'm not even telling that it takes me away from the reality, but it keeps me grounded. And that's my core.
So you're seamlessly able to switch gears.
Yes.
Move into.
Yes.
That's, we women tend to be multifaceted, right? There's one facet that comes out depending on where we are, who we are with, and what we like to do. Interesting. What is your mission, and what is your vision for healthcare 10 years down the line?
Right now, my vision is purely to take mental health to every person in India who is in need of it. And I am trying my best to number one is create first awareness. In India, though, awareness is
Yeah, I was
still
going to ask
a
you,
big
how are
need.
we bridging the gap?
Yeah,
Awareness.
So number one gap is the awareness itself.
Hmm.
So first of all, we need to create the awareness. Number two is, yeah, the awareness is created. But are there enough mental health facilities in India? Definitely no.
Hmm.
If I have to say the requirement, what the WHO has defined and what is actually available in India, there's a big gap. So I'm not only creating awareness, I'm also creating the accessibility. Accessibility in, like, we are expanding Marga Mind Care to all the cities of India. And also we are coming up with a obviously now technology, without technology we can't do anything, so we are coming up with a mental health app. So these are the things which would obviously going to bridge the gap. So right now my vision is to scale up mental health facility services across the length and breadth of India.
Lovely.
So we are scaling up Marga Mind Care, also coming up with a AI enabled mental health app.
Lovely. All right, Dr. Jyoti. So this brings us to our signature question. What does Nari Shakti mean to you?
Nari Shakti to me is showing up, women showing up again and again and again in spite of the disappointments, in spite of the challenges, in spite of the hurdles, in spite of the troubles and problems they are undergoing, and least but not the least, in spite of not getting the recognition, not even the acknowledgement, in spite of all this, showing up again and again and again as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter-in-law. So if I have to tell, is it the resilience? Is it the silent strength? So that is Nari Shakti to me.
Lovely, lovely. Totally loved it. I totally loved the conversation with you.
Thank you.
You know, the journey that you talked about, being able to make a difference in the life of people so early on in your life. A lot of people take time to evolve. There are so many factors that come into play, but you realized what you wanted to do, how you wanted to positively impact the community around you so early on in life, and to where you are, having delivered thousands and thousands of babies. That's such a magical moment every single time. And you said that every delivery was a learning experience in itself, right? So
it was a beautiful experience.
So absolutely incredible, very inspiring story. Totally loved having you here. So folks, I really hope that you enjoyed watching this particular episode. We've not covered healthcare before, and especially the topic of mental health. A lot of us actually, the biggest takeaway for me is a lot of us actually go through, mental health issues, but we're not really able to call them out as something where we need to seek professional help. We often think of this as being something transient or something where we feel that we can cope up with it, but it may not be. So if you ever feel like something's bothering you for an extended period of time, it is time to seek professional care. And then Marga Mind Care is there, and Dr. Jyoti, her contact is there in this Nari Shakti show comments. So if you feel like this is something that's inspired you, share it with someone who needs to hear. I'll be there with you next week with another Nari and her story. Until then, stay strong, be healthy. We'll be back.